Greetings, owners. It is your trusted commissioner here, ready for week two's action. So week one was action packed, a lot of high scoring affairs, a lot of great games, some that came down to the last minute on Monday night, especially that one between Huckleberry and I think it was Who's Your Daddy. That was only a 2-point victory. So, big time games, but looking forward to even more. It's almost like week one was an extension of the preseason for many of those guys, and it's their first game. So I expect even more points for this week and better games and probably even tighter contests. But without further ado, I won't talk anymore about the introduction. We'll get right to it. So there were two options for game of the week, but I settled in on Power T versus the Baker King. And I know the game's about to kick off, so I'll try to get right into this and get it going. But we got Justin Herbert versus Jalen Hurts. Man, it's going to be a big-time duel between those two quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts showed us last week that he's probably going to be in the conversation, one of the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks. And, I mean, that dude might be an MVP candidate based on how he played last week. Nonetheless, I'm going to pick Herbert as a better matchup that in that part. I also like the running backs a little bit better than Tony Pollard, although Pollard's probably going to be asked to do a little bit more with Zeke hurt, so we'll see how that matches. We'll see how that comes out. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is a real deal receiver, man, and so is Jalen Waddle. We saw it with that big touchdown he had. On the flip side, Baker King's got a stud group of receivers though, with Bateman, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb. We'll see what happens with CeeDee Lamb with Dak. I mean, somebody still got to catch the ball, and it's probably going to be CeeDee Lamb, right? And then Devonta Smith. The tight ends, Andrews and Hockenson, that's much better than Noah Fant, which we saw that last week. Noah Fant is just, he's playing tight end roulette on this one with Fant. So the Dolphins, neither one of their defenses, I do think the 49ers defense is in a better situation. And so with that said, I'm picking Power T to go 2-0 and Baker King to take his first loss. The next game is we got King of the Gridiron, who's already gotten 3 points on the board with Travis Kelce, man. I mean, that Travis Kelce is just a cheat code for tight ends. I mean, that dude is always catching passes, and it's just a sight to see with Travis Kelce every week, right? So Baker Mayfield though, he's having to roll with him at quarterback, which that ain't pretty. And then he's going up against Aaron Rodgers, and I do love Antonio Gibson in the role that he has now until Brian Robinson comes back. And Najee Harris, as long as he stays healthy, that's going to be a tight duo for running backs for GOAT. And then the receivers, nobody really to write home about, but these guys can get it done. Amari Cooper and Adam Thielen, they're both, Adam Thielen's in a better situation, but he's the number 2 guy. So he's getting Justin Jefferson's leftovers. Again, but tight end though. And tight end is a big deal, and we'll see what Tunyon does this week. Saints defense should play the Bucs pretty good. I'm not expecting too much from the Texans, although they look decent, but I expect Russell to come back a little bit more on that. With that said, I'm going to pick GOAT to win his first game and King of the Gridiron to take his first loss. Next game is Laugh Now, Pay Later versus Swagner. Laugh Now didn't win last week. Swagner did. And already is looking like, Laugh Now is going to have a tough week because Alvin Kamara popped up on the injury list yesterday, so he's not practicing. It's not looking good for him to play this week. Trey Lance has been in strip clubs, so we'll see where his mind is. Drake London, Allen Robinson, Deebo Samuels is probably going to be doing a little bit more, especially with the running back situation. We saw that last year. Cortland Sutton had a pretty good game, and I think that's just more to come for them because that was their first game last week. Evan Ingram, I don't know what to expect in that one, but I do expect a big game from the Rams defense this week. Swagner, Kyler Murray is going to have a better game this week, and he didn't do bad last week. But James Conner, Cordell Patterson, Cooper Kupp, number 1 receiver in fantasy, and it showed in game 1. And then he's got Dallas Goedert and O.J. Howard. Very sneaky, but great pickup. And I think that might start paying dividends faster than he expected because Brevin Jordan is now hurt for the Texans, so that's leaving O.J. Howard is the sole pass catching tight end on that team. I think I'm kind of talking too much on it. I think y'all know where I'm probably going to go on this one. Swagner goes 2-0. Laugh Now is 0-2 and sitting in a hard place now. Next up, we got Huckleberry, who's 1-0 versus Infantry Warrior, who's 0-1. Jameis Winston versus Tua Tagovailoa. That's really more of a tight matchup just because of the guys that they're playing up against. The quarterbacks are just, it's an even matchup there. Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon are probably better running backs than Ezekiel Elliott and DeAndre Swift, but not by much. Really not by much at all. And I might even retract that statement and just say it's probably a wash when we look at the running backs for this week. Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf, right now on paper, are probably better than Mike Williams and Michael Pittman, especially since Michael Pittman is not even practicing. So he might not even dress out this week. But Mike Williams probably should have a big game, especially with Keenan Allen out. And that also impacts Gerald Everett too for tight end. But I don't think he'll have enough to beat Dalton Schultz and Darren Waller. And we'll see what happens with the Chiefs defense tonight. So I'm going to pick Huckleberry to go 2-0 and Infantry Warrior to go 0-2. The next game is, this would have been my other choice for game of the week if it had not been for Power T. But this is the Greatest Show on Paper versus the Bulldogs. Both of these teams won last week and they're both 1-0. Greatest Show on Paper's got Josh Allen, who I used the word cheat code earlier, but he's a cheat code for quarterbacks in fantasy. And he's tying him up with Diggs. So that's just going to be a match, a fantasy match in heaven. I mean, you could look at 100 points from just those two players in any given week. Travis Etienne, he's better than what the points showed last week. And matter of fact, the video showed that there were 2 big plays that were missed. And if he makes one of them, he goes from being a 12-point running back to a 20-point running back. So I think Travis Etienne is the real deal. And but the Bulldogs, whenever you're playing him, you're basically paying the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of fantasy when he's got Brady, Lenny, Mike Evans, who's not practicing. So we'll see what happens there. But if he doesn't practice, he's still got Russell Gage. So it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a high-scoring game, I think, between these two teams. And, both these teams are going to be a force to reckon with for the whole season. I do have Bulldogs taking this game. Bulldogs going 2-0 and Greatest Show on Paper taking their first loss. The next game is between two teams that are winless. So we got Fire Dogs versus Dark Knight. So one of these teams are going to have to win this week. Neither one of them looked great last week. So we'll see, if last week was just a blip in the radar for them, or if it's, really how these are just two teams that are going to struggle all season. Dark Knight, though, he's got Patrick Mahomes going tonight. Derek Carr is going to be going on Sunday. David Montgomery is better than Dontrell Hilliard. He's chasing points on that one. But Devontae Adams, DeAndre Carter is a sneaky play for tonight. And then Alan Lazard should dress out. So I'm actually thinking that Dark Knight's probably got the better receiving core for this game. Even though Brandon Ayuk, A.J. Brown, his connection with Jalen Hurts showed last week that's going to be a nice connection all season. So don't sleep on that. But I don't know what we'll get from Richie James and Michael Thomas. We'll see. But Tyler Conklin should be a decent start. Neither one of those tight ends. And again, Dark Knight is chasing some points with Andrew Beck. And Hayden Hurst should be a fair play with the Bengals. Cowboys defense, can't really expect much from there. And I think that's when this game gets decided. When you get down to defenses, I think the Colts are in a better position going up against the Jags. So I'm picking Fire Dogs to take its first win and Dark Knight to take another loss and go 0-2. The next game this probably would have been the game of the week had either one of them had a win, but you got the 4-time champ in STL and you got the no-time champ and AGM for life. Both of these teams come in 0-1. So one of these teams is going to have to win. The other team is going to take a loss and is going to be in a tough position. And it's really not that you lose your season after going 0-2. We've seen teams rebound for sure. But given the division that they're in and the out-of-conference play, they're going to really have to make up some hay out of division because the division is going to be tight. So Cousins versus Stafford should be a pretty equal matchup this week, given the slight edge to Cousins just because of I don't know, man. I mean, both of them are equal. They both got the number 1 and number 2 receivers in fantasy, depending on how you look at it. So that matchup is probably more even than we think. Barkley and McCaffrey versus A.J. Dillon and Jonathan Taylor. Again, that matchup is probably more even than we think, looking at just the names on paper because of what those game scripts should call for. It starts to separate a receiver, though. Jamar Chase is better than Chase Claypool. Christian Kirk is better than Corey Davis. Jarvis Landry and Juju Smith-Schuster are probably neck and neck, but I'll give the slight edge to Juju Smith-Schuster, and we'll see how that goes tonight for him. Kyle Pitts and Cole Kmet, neither one of them did great last week, but I think Kyle Pitts rebounds, and I think both of them rebound actually, but Kyle Pitts are in a bigger way. The kickers are kickers. Broncos defense are going to be a better matchup for Houston. The Bills defense are a great defense. So I think you can count on 50 for them. I think it'll be a tight game. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. It'll be fun to watch. But I think STL will take out the no-time winner. Don't have any champions, and he won't have any wins still after this week either. So AGM for Life goes 0-2, and STL goes 1-1. And I believe my final game of the week is Who's Your Daddy versus the Silver Fang Big Wolf. Who's Your Daddy is 0-1. Big Wolf is 1-0. Who's Your Daddy's? He's got a good squad. He's got Nick Chubb. He's got Dalvin Cook. He's got Joe Burrow. We'll see what happens with T. Higgins. Jerry Jeudy looked good last week. Zach Ertz was, okay in his game. The Browns defense they're gonna be solid all season. Lamar, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, Pat Freiermuth, DJ. I mean, the Wolves got his usual guys, and they had a good week to practice, and they're excited about the game. But due to my affiliation, I can't make a pick in this game. So good luck with all the fantasy. And just to recap, make sure I picked all the games. I had GOAT beating King of the Gridiron. I got Swagner beating Laugh Now, Pay Later. I got Huckleberry beating Infantry Warrior. I got the Bulldogs beating the Greatest Show on Paper. I got STL4 beating the STL 4-time champ, beating AGM, the no-time champ. I got Power T beating Baker King. I got Fire Dogs beating Dark Knight, and I'm not picking any games between the Wolf and Who's Your Daddy. So enjoy fantasy, enjoy the games, and until next week, good luck.